Hello, Golden Eagles and everyone else. This is not Emily Blue, who is normally here in the chair. Emily has been sick. And so this is Mean Willie Green in the driver's seat. I hope that's okay with you. We got a great show coming up today. Mississippi Moments, we're going to talk with Hardy Stennis. He's going to recall being a fighter pilot in Vietnam as part of that. And Kennedy Drake's going to have the Hattiesburg Community Calendar. But also, we're going to have an interview with Dr. Rebecca Turry and Dr. Anthony Harris regarding a talk tonight that we're going to have. In fact, that's the first thing I'm going to start off. I'm going to start off the show with the news. One of the things going on tonight, and that's going to be at 6 p.m. tonight at the Gonzalez Auditorium over there in the Liberal Arts Building here on campus. Dr. Anthony Harris is going to describe his experiences participating in Hattiesburg civil rights marches and his connection to the stories and the photographs of Herbert Randall. After the lecture from Dr. Harris, guests are going to be invited to view a selection of Randall's photographs, which are on display in the University Art Gallery, which is in what's the hall? I can't think of the name of the hall. Oh well, it's right. It's on the. I'm so bad at this. I should be great at this, but I'm not. Anyway, Dr. Harris is a great author, Hattiesburg native civil rights activist, and the interim dean of the Green College Woodlow R. Green College of Education at Prairie View A&M. And the event is sponsored by the Center for the Gulf South and School of Humanities with the School of Performing and Visual Arts. It's going to be tonight at 6. To give you some more information in Hattiesburg news today. The crew of St. Catherine is going to host the second Roll and Stroll Mardi Gras walking parade and block party. That's going to be Friday from 7 to 10 p.m. in downtown Hattiesburg. Block party is going to start at 6:30, and it's going to last until 9:30. This year's theme is Rock and Roll Stroll, a nod to Hattiesburg's musical roots. Co-founder Ginger Lowry said, quote, "Last year we had about 2,000 people. This year we hope for a bigger crowd." There's going to be a DJ for the block party. Food trucks are going to be around, and downtown restaurants and bars are going to be open as well. Fat Cat in the former Thirsty Hippo location on McLeod Street in downtown is going to be hosting an after party at 10 p.m., and music there will be handled by the Southern Comfort Brass Band. In Mississippi news, the Mississippi Senate passed a bill Wednesday that will streamline the process for doctors in the state to receive prior authorization on procedures from insurance companies. State Senator Walter Michael, the bill's author, said the bill would establish an online portal for physicians to submit requests to insurance providers and for procedures that require prior authorization. If this bill passes both chambers, non-urgent care will require insurance companies to approve or deny coverage for a procedure within 5 days, and urgent but non-emergency care requires issuers to respond within 2 days to the request. Emergency procedures would not require prior authorization, however. A similar bill passed both the state and House and Senate in 2023, but Governor Reeves vetoed it, and by asserting that the law and the portal should be regulated by the Mississippi Insurance Department instead of the Mississippi Department of Health. In national news, groups seeking to keep former President Donald Trump off the ballot for his role in the January 6, 2021 insurrection are looking to the late Justice Scalia's words to bolster their position. In a 2014 opinion, Justice Scalia basically said that evidence that the 14th Amendment language making an insurrectionist available for any U.S. office does include former presidents to anyone else. Oral arguments in this are going to be scheduled for next Thursday. President Trump's claim that the presidents are not officers as such and should not be applied to him, that was his argument. In the opposition, the Constitutional Accountability Center cites Scalia, stating that officials in every branch of government referred to as the president as an officer of the United States. In addition, others have pointed to language from Justice Neil Gorsuch from his tenure on the 10th Circuit U.S. Court of Appeals, where he states that states could routinely exclude candidates from the ballot if they were constitutionally ineligible from serving in the office they sought. There is a little bit of look at the news for you. I'm going to be right back with a look at USM sports and local weather. That's going to be right after this sponsor message on Southern Miss Today. Sponsorship for Southern Miss Today comes from Mr. Sippy Beverages. Mr. Sippy Beverages provides water, water coolers, and coffee service throughout South Mississippi. Take half of your weight in pounds. That's how many ounces of water you need a day. Mr. Sippy Beverages can help you reach that goal by delivering fresh water to your door. To get more information or to set up a cooler and water delivery, you can call Mr. Sippy Beverages at 601-271-2420, or you can find them online.
Melissa from Michigan. I work an extra part-time job serving lunch at my child's school, but I still can't afford to put food on our table.
Daniel from California. Choosing whether to pay the rent or pay to fix the car to get to work doesn't leave us with much at all. Now we can't even pay for meals.
Hunger is a story we can end. End it at feedingamerica.org. Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
When you or your business sponsors programming on WUSM, you are getting more than recognition for your product. You are also gaining the appreciation of our audience who understands that your sponsorship provides their favorite programming. And research shows that the audience is more likely to patronize your business, too. In addition, the cost of sponsoring programming on WUSM is tax deductible. To learn more, call 601-266-4287. Sponsorship for Southern Miss Today comes from Mr. Sippy Beverages. Mr. Sippy Beverages provides water, water coolers, and coffee service throughout South Mississippi. Take half of your weight in pounds. That's how many ounces of water you need a day. Mr. Sippy Beverages can help you reach that goal by delivering fresh water to your door. To get more information or to set up a cooler and water delivery, you can call Mr. Sippy Beverages at 601-271-2420, or you can find them online. And we're back on Southern Miss Today. Take a look at USM Sports. The Southern Miss women's basketball sits at 10-9, a record of 10-9, with a 3-6 record in the Sun Belt so far this basketball season. The Lady Eagles welcome the Louisiana Cajuns to Reed Green Coliseum tonight, and that's going to kick off the second half of the basketball season. The game is going to be a dual celebration of Play for K and the National Girls and Women in Sports Day. Last time out, the Lady Eagles cruised to a 77-43 win over South Alabama. The Lady Eagles will also be at home this Saturday against Troy with a 2 p.m. tip-off. However, things were not so good last night for the USM men's basketball team. The Arkansas Red Wolves notched a 78-71 win over the Golden Eagles in Jonesboro, Arkansas last night. Currently, Southern Miss has a record of 12-10 overall with a 6-4 record in the Sun Belt. Their lead at halftime over Arkansas State, who is 9-14 and 5-5 in the Sun Belt, kind of evaporated, and the Golden Eagles suffered from a lack of scoring in the second half, which proved to be the deciding factor in the negative outcome of the game. For only the second time under Jay Ladner, the Golden Eagles limited itself to 4 turnovers, and the first time since 2022 they've had that few. And while taking care of the ball, Southern Miss hit a scoring drought, however, as mentioned during the second half, and it proved to be too much to overcome. Men's basketball at USM finishes a 4-game road trip. It's Texas State this Saturday in San Marcos, Texas, at 4:15 p.m. tip-off, which is going to be televised on ESPN+. Taking a look at the weather for you, it's going to be around 68 earlier or later today. It should be the high. Going to look overnight at a temp of 40. Going to be a little warmer tomorrow with a high predicted to be 72 and a low of 42. Rain looks to be coming back into the forecast for Saturday and Sunday, however, with an 80% chance of rain on Saturday and a 90% chance of rain on Sunday. And potentially that's going to hold over into Monday with some AM showers as well. So get out and enjoy what you got tomorrow for sure. Looks like you might be inside Saturday and Sunday, which might be okay. I don't know. I tell you what, we're going to have Mississippi moments right now from the Center for World History and Cultural Heritage here at USM. Today we're going to have Hardy Stennis, a Mississippi native, talks about his time as being a fighter pilot in Vietnam. I'll be right back in just a minute, and we'll be talking with Dr. Rebecca Turi and Dr. Anthony Harris on Southern Miss Today.
This is Mississippi Moments, produced by the Center for Oral History and Cultural Heritage at the University of Southern Mississippi and supported by the Mississippi Humanities Council. I'm Bill Ellison. During the Vietnam War, Marine fighter pilots were called on to attack a variety of targets. Hardy Stennis remembers a mission to destroy a ferry in Laos and the plan for getting his men home safely.
They were ferrying troops and equipment across the river over in Laos. They wanted us to go up and knock it out. They had red pins stuck in the map every place there was an anti-aircraft gun. The whole target was circled. So I tell my division that we come in at different headings, we come in at different altitudes. We will only make one run. Multiple runs get you killed. I was the first one that rolled in. The whole ground just opened up. I had 4 500-pound bombs, and I rolled that sucker in at a real steep angle at about 3,000 feet. I pickled off everything I had, all 4 of them at once. Rolled out, went up a canyon until I got about 10 miles away, and then I went to 40,000 feet. As soon as I came out, they said, "You hit it, dead center." I just blew that ferry up, and I said, "Don't anybody roll in. Go back to home base."
To hear more, visit MississippiMoments.org or just like us on Facebook. Mississippi Moments is supported by the Mississippi Humanities Council. The humanities are for everyone.
All right, thanks so much for that. Mississippi Moments, produced by the Center for Oral History and Cultural Heritage here at USM. I'm going to take a quick sponsorship message break, and then I'm going to be back with Dr. Rebecca Turry and Dr. Anthony Harris. Going to talk about a lecture tonight regarding the photo exhibit that's going on in the George Hurst Building, and that the lecture will be in the Gonzalez Auditorium in the LAB. But we'll be right back after those sponsor messages with that interview here on Southern Miss Today. Sponsorship for Southern Miss Today comes from Mississippi Beverages. Mississippi Beverages provides water, water coolers, and coffee service throughout South Mississippi. Take half of your weight in pounds. That's how many ounces of water you need a day. Mississippi Beverages can help you reach that goal by delivering fresh water to your door. To get more information or to set up a cooler and water delivery, you can call Mississippi Beverages at 601-271-2420, or you can find them online.
My simple solution to the problem was remove people from the scene and help them feel safer.
In response to attacks against Asian Americans, Maddie Park raised over $250,000 to donate cab rides to the Asian community.
There is so much more work to be done. We really need to come together and tackle this issue as a community.
Support the Asian community. Learn how at lovehasnolabels.com. Brought to you by Love Has No Labels and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to Southern Miss Today. Wilbur Martin in for Emily Blue, who is out sick. And it's a little bit after 12. It's 13 minutes after 12, according to my computer, for whatever that's worth. But I do have a couple of great guests in the studio. And a big Southern Eagles welcome to Dr. Rebecca Turry and Dr. Anthony Harris. Thank you guys so much for being a part of the show today.
Glad to be here.
Thank you.
Great. The reason why I called you here today, we're promoting what's going on is Dr. Harris is going to be giving a lecture. So there's a photo exhibit that's in the George Hurst Building that chronicles Freedom Summer and photographs that were taken by Herbert Randall during Freedom Summer, and that's going to be in Gonzalez Auditorium, right over in the LAB. That's correct.
That's correct.
And 6 p.m. is the time, right?
Correct.
Right, and everybody's invited for that. So everybody should go over there. Go see the pictures and then go hear Dr. Harris speak. I'm sure it's going to be a really good lecture. This is, they do so many of the centers on USM's campus do so many great things through the semester, and we'll always like to have as many of them as we can to let people know about more of the great things that are happening on the campus. So for Dr. Harris, now, I think a lot of us know what Freedom Summer is, but there are still a lot of people that have no idea or just very, very small idea. And even though the topic is huge as the Grand Canyon,
Yes.
would you give us a little bit about what was Freedom Summer?
Yes, thank you, and thank you for inviting me to be a part of this. I think it's so important that we share these stories, that we chronicle, as Mr. Randall has done, with his photographs, and combined with the the spoken word and the written word and the visuals, I think it makes a tremendous and hopefully lasting impact on people who have a chance to consume these lectures and so forth. But Freedom Summer was, it's what it's called sometimes. Sometimes it's called the Summer of 1964.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the brainchild of Bob Moses. Mr. Moses was a math teacher in Harlem, and he had a yearning for wanting to do something about what he saw as so many injustices due to the segregation in the South. So he organized through the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee a group of volunteers, and volunteers were college students, entertainers, clergy, and they all went to a university in Ohio at the beginning of the summer to get training. And the purpose of the whole Freedom Summer was threefold. One, they wanted to train these volunteers to come to Mississippi to help with voter registration, because it wasn't until 1965 that the Voting Rights Act was passed. So
Right.
in 1964, my parents were not allowed to register to vote. That was an important piece to that, to go out and canvass neighborhoods and encourage black people to go to the circuit court to get registered. The second was to operate freedom schools. And that's how I was involved mainly with freedom schools. And freedom schools were set up in churches around Hattiesburg. And I attended the freedom school at Mount Zion Missionary Baptist Church. And the teachers for these schools were generally college students, black and white, college students from different parts of the country. There were two people who lived in our home who were teachers. Paula Pace was from New York, and Beth Moore was from Minnesota. So they stayed in our homes for the entire summer, and they taught these classes. And the classes dealt with a variety of topics and issues, helping with our writing skills, helping with our debate skills, our math skills, all those things that the presumption was, because schools were racially divided and racially segregated in Hattiesburg, as they were across the South, that oftentimes black kids were receiving an inferior education. They did not have the latest textbooks, and I knew that factually because the textbooks we had were textbooks that the white students had discarded. They became out of date, so they moved transferred those out of date textbooks to the black schools. Lab equipment, chemistry equipment, all those things were used things that were sent to the black schools.
Wow.
So there was a certain amount of intentionality to all of that to deprive black kids a proper education. And I often tell people, despite that, we had black teachers in these black schools who didn't teach from the textbook, they taught from the heart.
Yeah.
And they instilled in us as children this wanting, this desire, this zeal for excellence in our schoolwork. So I think that was part of the assumption, and many times it was correct, that we did not get the advantages that the white students had in the school. So these freedom schools were set up to help us with that. I remember the first time I ever heard of Dr. Seuss's Cat in the Hat, for example, was at Freedom School.
Wow.
I didn't get that in elementary school.
Yeah.
And I remember there were debate teams from St. Paul United Methodist Church. Their Freedom School they would debate the kids from Mount Zion and so forth. And that developed their communication skills and their critical thinking skills. And that was all the point. We were not getting that in the Hattiesburg school system.
Right.
So that was very important. It was a time that I remember, and I credit much of what happened in 1964. I credit a lot of that to how I began to see myself, how I began to see my community, and more importantly, gave me some idea of what I was capable of doing, because the message that I had gotten from others in the administration, the superintendent and so forth, is that you're not worthy of a first class. You can't do it.
Right.
You should just be satisfied with getting by, being a carpenter, being a farmer, those sorts of things. Nothing wrong with being a farmer or a carpenter.
Sure.
But if you have a dream of being a doctor, of being an architect, being an astronaut, you should be able to do that.
Right.
So that was very important, as I said. And then the third part of their mission here was to help with the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party. That was the all-white Mississippi Democratic Party, which excluded black folk.
Right,
Okay?
yeah.
And Aaron Henry and some others got together and said, we're going to organize the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party, which will be multiracial, multi-ethnic. And they needed help with that. So as they proceeded in that project, they ended up going to Atlantic City in 1964 for the Democratic National Convention. And some people will recall that's where Miss Fannie Lou Hamer,
Fannie Lou Hamer, right, exactly.
made a very passionate.
Sick and tired of being sick and tired.
Exactly. and what was ironic, not ironic, but it was just cruel in a way, what LBJ did, he did not want to be shown up by Ms. Hamer, and because he needed these white Southern
Right.
Democrats in order to win the election.
Sure.
He called a press conference in the middle of her speech.
Wow.
Vietnam War is going on, so people think, okay, he's going to talk about the war. No, he wanted the networks and the cameras to go away from Ms. Hamer over to him, and so it was very cruel,
Right.
But not surprising thing that he did.
Sure.
So that was Freedom Summer, and it was a pivotal moment. I could talk for days about Freedom Summer,
Sure.
okay, but it was a watershed moment for the civil rights movement. It was. I don't know if people have seen the documentary Freedom Summer, and I'm in that documentary it's a PBS documentary. And one of the last things that's said in that movie was things would not go back to being the way they used to be. The train has left the station. And that was what Freedom Summer did for us. It gave us that energy, gave us that confidence, gave us that determination that we're not going back. We're going forward.
This is
and
moving
lots of things
forward,
happened
right.
after that, too.
I was right around the Dr. King holiday. I was listening to American Roots, a music show, and they were talking about how "We Shall Overcome" was sort of a not a full sanctioned theme song, but pretty much the SNCC people sang that at rallies, sang that going door to door canvassing, and just whenever they would get together, it was sort of a rallying cry.
Yeah,
for,
it was a signature song for the civil rights movement. And we closed
For
all
sure.
of our mass meetings with the singing of "We Shall Overcome."
Right.
We would cross our arms and lock hands, and that was a very poignant way to end that meeting, because
Sure.
it was a message that we shall overcome, future tense. We haven't gotten there. Still lots
Right.
of work to do.
Right.
And of course, Pete Seeger was here at that time too, and he popularized the song
Very
"We Shall
much so,
Overcome."
yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Continuing a little bit with you, Dr. Harris. Herbert Randall, who was he, and kind of how did the USM? You had mentioned the library having involved with that, but how did USM get a treasure trove of pictures from him for the archives?
Right. Mr. Randall was from New York, and he was here on a fellowship. He was given a grant to come to Mississippi, and he spent most of his time in Hattiesburg taking these photographs. They're all black and white photographs, of course. And he was, as I said, he was able to chronicle, he was able to capture the faces, there's so many things that an image can tell you about what's going on, and he was excellent at capturing the facial expressions and the movements and things that people were doing that was part of the story. Mr. Randall came back to Hattiesburg, came back to USM, I think probably 10 years ago. Some of us who were around at that time, we took a picture with him. And it was just great to see him again after all of these years, because after Freedom Summer, he went back to New York. And I was in contact with him very briefly, because in a book that I wrote, Ain't Gonna Let Nobody Turn Me Around, I used one of his photographs
Oh yeah,
on the
wow.
cover, and I needed his permission.
There you go.
And he gave me his permission, and also needed Pete Seeger's permission, because
For the
maybe I
lyrics.
shouldn't. Well, maybe I shouldn't, because I was going to do. But Mr. Seeger has passed away, and I was able to use that photograph. But as I understand the way that USM came in possession of his photographs was through the efforts of Dr. Bobs Tusa, who at that time was worked in the library here at USM, and she actually wrote a book about, it's a tabletop coffee table book that contains photographs, stories, and all those things in that book. And I understand it's here on this campus and probably in the library. But she was so instrumental in getting him to agree to donate those photographs to this institution. Had it not been for Dr. Bob Sousa, I would say USM would not be in
Would not have
possession
this,
of. No,
right.
no, I reserve the right to be wrong about that, but I will stand by that. That Dr. Tusa, I was working here at the time. I was the executive assistant to President Fleming from '99 to 2002, and I remember being in conversation with her about that project, and so she was. I give so much credit to her.
Very good, very good. Now, you mentioned something. You mentioned your book, and I was going to ask you a little bit about that. As a Hattiesburg native, being from here, would you mind talking a little bit about your book? The ain't gonna let nobody turn me around. Coming of age story and a personal account of civil rights movement in Hattiesburg, Mississippi.
Yes, first the title, because it's grammatically incorrect. Obviously, ain't gonna let nobody. That's what double negatives. But it was the title of a freedom song that we used to sing during the movement. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around, which is based on a gospel tune. And when I was writing the book, I had started and stopped so many times, and finally said, I need to write this book. For one reason was that I needed to tell my story. As I said, this is not a history book of the civil rights movement in Hattiesburg. It's through the lens of Anthony Harris as a kid growing up in the civil rights movement and beyond that time. So I started writing it and finally found a focus that I wanted to use. And what motivated me and kept me motivated was that as I grew older, I knew that there were people older than I who were in the movement. They were passing on. There were people who were younger than me who don't have the knowledge. It was my cohort group that we need to tell that story, because once we're gone, there's nobody here to tell it authentically from first person, not what somebody told them and not what they read. So I said, I need to write from my perspective what I saw, what I observed, what I felt, the fear, the pain, the anger, all those things that were part of 1964. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I would imagine that you being younger when that was all going on, you kind of were able to reap some of the benefits and then help pass those on as far as that went too.
Absolutely, yeah. I benefited greatly, and many others did as well, because we had an opportunity. Some of those barriers that had been put before us, they were starting to be torn down.
Right.
I was motivated to learn. There were so many other things, like the Free Southern Theater. Hope I get to talk about that tonight, because the Free Southern Theater made a huge impact on me. And so I think my being involved in that certainly made a difference in my life. And it gave me a different view of myself, as I said earlier. I learned about how to fight back, how to fight for justice, and how to resist all of the evil of racial segregation. And my mother was the catalyst behind it. Daisy Harris was an icon in the civil rights movement in Hattiesburg, and every time there was a march or demonstration or a mass meeting, she and her 3 boys were there, and she sacrificed a lot. So when I talk about my involvement in the movement, I can't do justice to that without talking about her involvement in the movement. So that was kind of the reason I wrote the book. And there are lots of stories about growing up in Hattiesburg. Some of it is related to the civil rights movement, but some of it is just stuff we used to do as kids. Okay, just a reminder that while Jim Crow was going on, there were some other things we were doing. You know, life kind of went along. And looking back on it now, we can say that wow, those were really difficult times. But at the time, we just kind of took things on a daily basis and to see what happened.
Right. Yeah, I want my engineer to hang with me a little bit here. Dr. Turi, you work as director, co-director of the Center for the Study of the Gulf South. Is that correct? Yeah. So tell me a little bit about the Center for the Study of the Gulf South here at USM, kind of what you guys do over there.
We are a group of faculty members who are committed to promoting the study of the history of the U.S. South and the Caribbean by promoting scholarship, funding research, and hosting public events like the one tonight. And we're very interested in ensuring that we have well-rounded, thoughtful events. So we're just so thrilled to be able to add this perspective of Dr. Harris to this wonderful exhibition of Herbert Randall's photographs. We think that, again, that this kind of breathes life into the photographs and hopefully will help the whole community here in Hattiesburg learn more about the civil rights movement from, again, that authentic perspective. Right.
You know, it's interesting you mentioned the Caribbean being so part of it, and so many people don't associate that because they don't have any of the history background, they don't have any of the knowledge. But really, between Africa and New Orleans, where a lot of enslaved people came in, the stopover was the islands, Caribbean, Haiti, Cuba, and whatnot, and so many things culturally, musically came from Africa to the Caribbean, packaged it up together, and ended up in New Orleans. A lot of the New Orleans drum beats are, even now, traditional second-line brass stuff is directly from the African influence that grew up there, and a lot of people don't put any of that together. So I think it's a brilliant thing, and seeing how jazz was invented just right down the road in New Orleans, basically all from the culture coming from Africa through the Caribbean and into what we do
and
here.
And the food.
Oh, yeah, and the food as well.
I mean there are some foods that originated in the motherland that got
King
brought
Gumbo.
over. Yeah, so many things that, and then when these enslaved people cooked for the plantation owner, Jefferson and all these people say, "Oh, that's really good."
What is that?
And guess who got credit for it? Jefferson got credit for it. Oh, Mr. Jefferson, this is a wonderful dish. Oh, yeah. But he didn't do it. One of his cooks did it.
Yeah, I mean, okra wouldn't have come to the New World if it weren't for seeds coming with enslaved people. As King Gumbo, I guess, is the sort of traditional name for that as well. You had mentioned some of the exhibits, and there are always some really great exhibits on campus. Are there any exhibits that the Center for the Gulf South has planned coming up into this semester?
Yes, well, we're really excited to have two wonderful things happening during Women's History Month. So actually, one of the things we like to do is sponsor our students. We give out a fellowship for a graduate student, and then we ask that graduate student to also do a presentation. And this year's fellow, Paige Mason, will be doing a presentation about the fight for women to get on the jury, on state juries. You know, Mississippi was the last state in the country to allow women to serve on juries.
Oh, that's shocking.
And that wasn't until 1968.
That's crazy.
And
that's in my lifetime. Jeez, that's crazy.
And so she'll be talking about that at the end of March. And then we have a roundtable that's going to talk about feminism in the Deep South that's going to feature research from faculty and students. So I'll be on that panel talking about women of the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party and my research on that. And then Sarah Driven, who is a master's student, will be talking about actually what women did here on campus and how feminism influenced students on campus in the late 60s and 70s. And then Emma Rawls will be talking about the Azalea Trail Maids and how they kind of morphed and changed in the post-feminist movement. So those are two more things. And then in April, we'll actually be sponsoring on the coast a talk about Marian Wright Edelman and the Children's Defense Fund. with a professor who's actually from Germany. And so that will be at the Bay St. Louis Public Library. We do like to, the first two events that I mentioned are going to be here on campus, but we do like to partner with local libraries around the state. So again, we like to kind of be out in the community and try to do public programming because we believe very much in educating not just our students, but community as well. So we really hope that lots of community members will come out tonight to this excellent talk.
Yeah, absolutely. And hopefully we can have you back on with the other events that we've got coming up.
Yes, I'd love that.
Great. Well, Dr. Turi, Dr. Harris, thank you so much for coming and being a part of the show. And I hope everyone gets out to a Gonzales tonight at 6 p.m. to catch your lecture for sure.
Thank you.
You're
Glad to be
welcome.
here.
Thank you so
Absolutely.
much.
Thanks so much. All right, we're going to have got another little news wrap coming up with the Monday, Wednesday host, Kennedy Drake. She's going to be having the Hattiesburg Community Calendar, and that's coming up next. You're listening to Southern Miss Today on Southern Miss Radio.
Hello everyone, my name is Kennedy Drake and I'm here with the Community Calendar. It is a new month, which means new and exciting things are happening to keep the community entertained across Hattiesburg. The fun starts this weekend at Bidden Auditorium. All South Honor Band is hosting a concert February 4th at 1 p.m. The concert contains several bands made up of talented student musicians across the Southeast. Come down to this event for a chance to hear the beautiful art of music. Please join us for Kat Black's True Tea event, where she will have an honest discussion on inclusiveness and social justice at the University Forum. The event begins February 6th at 6:30 p.m. in Bennett Auditorium. The Forum events are free and open to the public. Trust me, you don't want to miss what she has to say. The Mardi Gras Parade is for students looking for something fun to do between breaks in classes. The 13th Annual Mardi Gras Parade will be held February 10th from 10 p.m. to 1 a.m. The parade will be on Hardy Street, specifically Route 4th Street and 49 South to Hardy West to 39th, where Wells Fargo is located. This is a free event open to anyone wanting to experience a night filled with music, parades, floats, excitement, and all things New Orleans style. Come dressed in your best purple, green, and gold outfits. Are you wondering what to do the weekend leading up to Valentine's Day? If so, the Pottery Night is the perfect thing for you. If you want to learn more about hand building, grab a best friend, a date, or your mom and come ready to bring your creative mind to the test. The event is February 10th from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. Each person can make 2 pieces of pottery, and to register, please visit the website on screen. Here on Southern Miss TV, community matters. If you have an event you would like for us to promote, send it to sm2news@usm.edu with your event details. Be sure to check out Southern Miss Today, Monday through Thursday at noon on WUSM 88.5. And also please check out our student media, Student Prints. I'm signing out. I'm Kennedy Drake, and this has been your Community Calendar. Stay blessed.
All right. Thank you, Kennedy, for a little bit of look at the community calendar. Once again, thanks to our guests, Dr. Anthony Harris and Dr. Rebecca Turi. And if you get a chance, go to the lecture at Gonzales tonight at 6 and whatnot. I'm me, Willie Green. I've been in here for Emily Blue today. And hopefully Emily will be back with us soon. Hopefully she'll get over whatever illness that she's got going on, and we can kind of go on from there. You have been listening to Southern Miss Today. Happens Monday through Thursday here on Southern Miss Radio. And big thanks to our engineers. Big thanks to the program director. Thanks to me. Thanks to Elena. Thanks to everyone that helps out on the show. And we'll be back next week with some more. Of course, we'll have the weekly wrap-up and News You Need will be tomorrow at noon here on Southern Miss Radio and whatnot. But in the words of me, Willie Green, I say love, peace, and chicken grease. That's it for me. You guys have a good afternoon.